Taiki is an ugly jock who has a crush on the school's hottest basketball star. However, when her parents have to leave the city, she moves in with him and he uses this chance to get closer to her until she falls for him and lets him clap. It all starts early in the morning when Taiki rushes to the sports hall for badminton practice. There he sees his crush, Chinatsu, who accidentally hurls the basketball in his hideous face. She quickly checks up on him and notices that his forehead is red, so she offers him a chocolate as an apology. The next day, Taiki notices Chinatsu sitting outside the gym reading a book. As he wonders how to approach her, Chinatsu sneezes, so he immediately activates his inner simp and gives her a scarf and hot tea. Taiki starts sneezing himself, so she wraps the same scarf around his neck, and he starts wondering what it would be like if she were his wife. Just then, the security guard arrives to open the sports hall, and Chinatsu says goodbye and calls him by his name for the first time. At night, Taiki heads to the gym to retrieve his towel and is shocked to see that Chinatsu is still practicing. She invites him to play with her, and Taiki accepts, but gets humbled by the best basketball player in this school. She compliments him because he did well for someone who's never played basketball, but he tells her his mother used to be on the basketball team. Chinatsu is shocked because her mother also used to play, so she asks him why he chose badminton over basketball, and Taiki admits it's because he likes playing solo games. Chinatsu is impressed by how hard he works, but he says she is always one step ahead of him because she is always the first one at the gym. He then tells her he once saw her practicing while holding back tears because her team barely missed a spot at the Nationals, and Taiki realizes that was the moment he fell in love with her. Before she can respond, the security guard tells them it's time to close, so their conversation ends abruptly. The next day, before heading to school, he is surprised to see Chinatsu in a sports magazine, and his mother, Yukiko, asks him if he knows this girl. When he says yes, she tells him she and Chinatsu's mom Kano were on the same team, which gets him hyped because his chances of getting laid just went up. However, when his mom says their family is moving overseas this summer, he immediately rushes to the gym to convince her not to leave because he has seen how hard she has worked to get where she is at. Once he gets there, he gives a speech about how much he admires her hard work and she should keep hustling so she can make it to the Nationals. However, Chinatsu says she's not leaving and is instead staying with her mother's friend, making him realize he made a fool out of himself. He feels so embarrassed that he decides to leave, but she suddenly admits she stayed back after he reminded her of her dream to make it to the Nationals, leaving him in shock. She then thanks him with a big smile, inviting him to play with him sometime. On the weekend, he is still embarrassed about his speech, only to see her inside his house. Just then, Yukiko and Kano arrive, informing him that since they are old friends, Kano wants Chinatsu to live here until she graduates.
Yeah, boy.
Later, Taiki freaks out seeing Chinatsu all over his house and retreats to his room. Soon after, Chinatsu knocks on his door to let him know that the bath is ready, but he pretends to read a manga to hide his anxiety. However, she gets closer to him and says she also reads the same manga, so he lends it to her. She then admits she was nervous about living with strangers, but now feels relieved that it was him because he's a familiar face. During practice, Taiki's best friend Kyo brings up how popular Chinatsu is, and Taiki agrees with him that their living situation is not something he should casually reveal to others. Taiki admits to Kyo that he wants to aim for nationals in his very first year of school, so he can reach the same level as Chinatsu and be worthy of her. Later at home, while Taiki is in the middle of his workout, Chinatsu comes across him, and during their conversation, he confesses that he knows his current state isn't good enough if he wants to achieve that dream. In response, Chinatsu hands him a wish ribbon like the one she carries and wishes him luck. She even goes so far as to tie it around his ankle, which gives him the motivation to work even harder. The next day, Taiki's cute friend, Hina, sees him hustle and becomes suspicious that something must have happened between him and Chinatsu. She keeps following around, asking questions, but he refuses to tell her because Hina is notorious for not being able to keep a secret. They both then run into Chinatsu, and when she tries returning his wallet, Taiki stops her because he doesn't want Hina to get a hint. This leaves Chinatsu seemingly upset, and when she begins ignoring him, Taiki desperately tries to get her attention so he can apologize, but she continues brushing him off. Hina wants to set the two up and bluntly asks Chinatsu if she has a boyfriend or if she is interested in finding one, but Chinatsu calmly tells her she's only focusing on basketball right now. This leaves both Hina and Taiki disappointed, but they quickly brush it off. Later, a teacher praises Taiki for his dedication during practice, but when he looks for some recognition from Chinatsu, she leaves without saying anything. During practice, Taiki notices Chinatsu fall and goes to check on her at the sink. There, she admits she thought he had a crush on Hina and wanted to hide their living situation, which is why she started acting like a stranger to help him. Taiki denies it and tells her the real reason is that he doesn't want people to gossip behind her back. The misunderstanding makes them both laugh, and their playful moment is witnessed by Hina. Later, Taiki sets his sights on defeating Haryu, a senior who had gone far in the prefectural qualifiers the year before. During practice, he notices that the gallery is crowded with Hina's TikTok followers, who've all come to see their queen slay in gymnastics. Later, as he walks home, he runs into Hina, who is on her way to a chiropractor appointment, and since they are near his house, he panics and tries to get her there quickly before she notices Chinatsu going inside. On the way, Hina talks about how she carefully controls her diet to stay fit for rhythmic gymnastics, and Taiki praises her discipline, which makes her eyes light up. She returns the compliment by praising his determination both in badminton and in his efforts to get laid. Just then, he spots Chinatsu walking with Haryu and assumes they're smashing, but Hina says they are probably friends walking together just like them. Taiki agrees with her at first, but things get only worse when he sees them spend more time together the next day. During practice, Chinatsu asks Taiki if he can get home early and open the door for her as she's left her key at home. But just then, Haryu shows up and calls her by her nickname Chi. Later, Taiki runs home and throws himself on the floor, telling himself that he'll never be close enough to Chinatsu to ship to a nickname basis. As she walks in, he tries to avoid her, but she stops him and asks if he ran home because he didn't want her to wait outside for long. That's when Taiki realizes he had been worried about the wrong thing, so he quickly cheers up and says he sprinted home because he just wanted to get an extra workout. He then heads out for another run, telling himself that he'll never be able to compete with Haryu when it comes to ladies, so instead he'll beat him in badminton. The next day, Taiki wins all of his matches and tells himself that he won't focus on Haryu, but when he sees Chinatsu talking to him, he literally starts melting. Later, Taiki plays with Haryu and loses the first set badly, but instead of pointing fingers at others, he turns this loss into motivation and a lesson. When he returns for the second set, he recalls the ribbon Chinatsu had put on his ankle, and this motivates him even more. This time, he puts up a strong fight against Haryu, and even though he loses, Kyo tells him he has nothing to be ashamed of. However, Taiki is furious at himself for all the things he did wrong, and unbeknownst to him, Haryu is also frustrated because he almost let a rookie beat him. Later, as he walks home, Chinatsu suddenly appears and takes him to a park where she asks him to play badminton with her. However, she sucks at the game, so he helps her with the basics, and her charming personality and comforting words help him get over the loss. Afterward, he notices a tag on her bag with her nickname on it, and she tells him that's what all of her classmates call her, which helps him ease up. The next day, he is shocked to learn that he's playing doubles with Haryu, which ruins his plans of defeating him and scoring Chinatsu. Just then, Haryu overhears his conversation with Kyo and starts teasing him about having a crush on Chinatsu. For the next few days, Haryu puts Taiki through a tough training routine, and when he notices that Taiki is slowing down, he tells him that Chinatsu will never let a slowpoke smash her. This motivates him to push harder, and eventually, he manages to earn Haryu's respect. Later, Haryu roasts him in front of his classmates, including Chinatsu, but the roast ends with him praising Taiki for how hard he's worked. Just then, he gets a text and tells everyone it's from his girlfriend, which shocks Taiki. He then thanks Chinatsu for helping him buy makeup for his girl, and it finally clicks to Taiki that nothing is going on between them. A month after Chinatsu moved in, Taiki slowly starts getting his life together and tells himself that being in love is the best thing ever. At school, Q reminds him that he has a match tomorrow and asks why he hasn't made any moves on Chinatsu yet. Before he can answer, he gets a text from Chinatsu telling him that he accidentally took her uniform instead of his own. She invites him to the AV room so they can swap in discretion, but once he gets there, he bumps into Hina and drops the uniform. When she tries to pick it up, he says he hasn't washed it all year, so she doesn't see the name tag. He then meets her on the roof, and she starts changing in front of him. Panicking, he decides to guard the door.
Why are you gay?
But the sounds of her changing make him imagine some sussy goon material. After she's done, he asks her to go ahead without him, as he sits back and wonders why Chinatsu doesn't see him as a dude who wants to clap her. On his way back, Hina tells him to be prepared for his first match tomorrow, and while he's calm at that moment, it really hits him at night that tomorrow is a big day. He is so worked up that he skips sleep and starts practicing his strokes in the front yard. And when Chinatsu joins him, she points out that his shirt is inside out. He casually takes it off to flip it, but when he notices that Chinatsu is shying away, he apologizes. Chinatsu then comments on his six-pack and tells him he's gotten ripped ever since he started training. Takei isn't happy with the progress because he still can't beat Haryu. But Chinatsu offers him words of encouragement and reminds him that he still has 2 years to achieve his goal, but he sternly says that's not enough and walks off. The next day, he locks in and advances into the doubles top 16 with Haryu, after which they run into Haryu's previous double partner Kishi, who also has a crush on Chinatsu. He had asked Haryu to hook him up with her if he beats him in a match, but Haryu broke his promise, which is why he's mad. When Kishi demands that he give him Chinatsu's phone number, Haryu says he will have to beat Takei in singles first. When he returns home, he overhears Chinatsu and his mother talking, and Chinatsu mentions how Takei got upset when she mentioned that he has 2 years left. She admits it sounded like it was okay to lose, but in reality, she worries that her time at school will end in a breeze because she's Takei's senior, so she said it out of envy. Hearing this, Takei walks in confidently and declares that he will win his singles too, and Chinatsu wishes she were more like him in this regard. A week later, Takei finally plays Kishi in a singles match, and all Haryu's classmates show up to watch the match. During the match, Kyo walks up to Chinatsu and tells him that Takei is working so hard to impress her, so if he wins, she should take him out to celebrate. Chinatsu doesn't believe Kyo at first, but when she sees Takei getting all fired up, she finally realizes the truth and agrees to take him to an aquarium on the weekend. After an intense back and forth between the players, it comes down to the final point, and Takei manages to take the dub. By the evening, all the matches conclude, and Takei comes in second, losing to Nishida, who is the second best after Haryu. Later, he suddenly gets a message from Chinatsu asking if he wants to hang out tomorrow, and he completely panics. Kyo reveals he was the one who asked Chinatsu, so Hina tells him not to blow his first date ever before leaving. After panicking the whole night, he wakes up late and rushes to the train station, where he runs into Chinatsu looking like a full-course meal. They head to the aquarium, where Takei imagines all the possible reasons she asked him out. Eventually, he eases up around her, but admits to himself that he cannot confess his feelings until he makes it to the nationals. When he decides it's time to head back, she suddenly grabs his shirt and apologizes for telling him he still has 2 years. She says they didn't have the time to talk since that day, so she wanted to take him out and make it up to him for being insensitive. Takei is a little disappointed because he was hoping this was a date rather than an apology. He tells her she's too considerate, and he doesn't usually hang on to such things, but what surprises him is that she had been holding onto this burden for an entire week. He then sends her a sticker, telling her to use this to communicate in case she can't find her words, and he'd understand. Much to his surprise, she sends him that sticker right away, and when he asks if he has to say anything, she says he's a good housemate, which annoys him because he wants her to see him as husband material. The next day, Takei is hanging out at the cafe with Kyo, who asks what he would do if he learned Chinatsu likes him too, which makes Takei panic. When they're joined by Hina, Kyo tells him about the upcoming qualifiers, so Takei decides to lock in. Hina asks which schools have the best badminton teams, and Kyo says Sagikawa High is the top contender, and they even won nationals last year. Takei tells Hina to focus on her own competition, and she confidently says she's got this in the bag. Just then, her coach shows up with a journalist who wants to interview her, and she smirks at Takei, basically telling him to suck it. After the interview, she visits her chiropractor's clinic, where she runs into Chinatsu and decides to help Takei score her. She starts talking about Takei, telling her that he once broke his ankle while saving her from a fall, and while Hina was angry at herself, Takei never blamed her and was always kind towards her. Unbeknownst to Hina, her plan backfires, and Chinatsu now thinks Hina has a crush on Takei. As they exit the clinic, it starts to rain, but Chinatsu gives Hina an extra umbrella before leaving. Soon after, the receptionist tells her that Chinatsu forgot her phone, so Hina goes after her to return it. That's when she sees her enter Takei's residence, and it leaves her in shock. At first, she decides not to interfere, but her curiosity takes over, and she suddenly pops out, demanding an explanation. After getting permission from Chinatsu, Takei invites Hina inside, tells her the truth, and apologizes for not telling her sooner. Hina is upset because he didn't trust her with this, but she admits that she hasn't been a great friend either since she made no effort to hook them up. On her way back, she keeps thinking about it and bumps into someone, only to realize that she ran into a pillar. The following day, after giving a demo performance to her coach, she confidentially declares that she will win the competition, when in reality, she is nervous because Takei and Chinatsu's situation is getting to her head. Later, she sees Takei in the lockers wearing a ribbon on his ankle, and he admits he got it from Chinatsu as a good luck charm because they both have the same goals. Later, she realizes that they both push each other to be better, but since she has no one pushing her, she begins to tear up and convinces herself that she's fine on her own. For the next few days, Hina practices practices alone, but with everything getting to her head, she keeps messing up her routine. Both Taiki and Kyo notice this and find it strange because Hina has always been at the top. Later, she runs into the principal, who praises him for all her success and even mentions her father, who played in the Olympics, and all those expectations weigh on her. When she returns to the gym, she sees Taiki cheering Chinatsu on and runs away, vowing to get through this on her own. For the next few days, she continues to practice until she gets back on track, and now she is looking forward to the competition. Just then, she bumps into a guy and suddenly feels a sprain in her ankle, and the world freezes for her in that moment. Taiki suddenly shows up and takes her to the nurse's office, where she gets the good news that she's fine. Taiki calls her a drama queen for acting like she broke her foot, only for her to go on a rant about everyone who's piling expectations on her back. However, Taiki motivates her by saying she is not one to run away from a fight, and this helps her get back on track. In the end, she takes first place and scores a spot at the Nationals, and Taiki watches from a distance, relieved that it all worked out. That night, when Taiki returns home, he runs into Chinatsu in the corridor, and they briefly talk about Hina. When Taiki starts praising her, Chinatsu gets the feeling that they both like each other and starts wondering if she is third-wheeling in their love story. A few days later, Taiki has a practice match with Haryu, which he loses and demands a rematch. Haryu denies it, saying losing again will shake his confidence, only for his own friends to remind him that he also keeps losing to Hayato from Sagikawa. Later, Taiki realizes he has only 10 days left until the qualifiers, and he's not satisfied with his progress. Just then, he sees Chinatsu carrying some bags and decides to help her carry them. However, when she brings up how he once said it was embarrassing to walk home with her, he plays dumb and acts like he doesn't know her, just so they can still head home together. That night, Taiki takes her to a shrine, and they both pray for her at the qualifiers. The next day, during the qualifiers, Chinatsu scores the final goal and wins the match for her team, securing their place in the finals. Their opponents for the finals are Kagohara Academy, who defeated them last year, so Chinatsu's team vows to take revenge. Later, Chinatsu overhears the Kagohara team talking about her, saying she is not that good and hasn't improved much since last year. Her friend Nagisa is about to throw hands to defend Chinatsu, but she tells her not to meddle with the other team's prep. Meanwhile, Taiki loses another game to Haryu, putting him at a 13-0 loss for the month. While he's fretting over his poor technique, Chinatsu and her teammates return for practice, and he notices that Chinatsu doesn't look happy even though they won. Later, he hears Nagisa mention what the other team said about Chinatsu, and it finally hits him that others don't see her the way he does. Just then, he notices Chinatsu standing behind him and panics, but she casually tells him to keep it quiet or Nagisa will hear them. Before they part ways, he tells Chinatsu not to let others get to her head because everyone here knows how good she is. However, Chinatsu says she'll let it get to her head because when she wins, she will feel even better this way. At that moment, Taiki wishes to get on his knees and worship that cookie 5 times a day.
What do you mean by that?
But he keeps himself in check. The next day, after they get a pep talk from the principal, Taiki plays another game with Haryu, and much to his own shock, he actually beats him. This hypes them both so much that they keep playing for hours, and everyone notices that Taiki is finally getting close to Haryu's level. Soon after, the coach calls it a day because Taiki has a big match tomorrow, and Haryu tells him not to lose to anyone else. Later, as he walks home confidently, Kyo asks if he'll ask Chinatsu out if he makes it to the Nationals, and the man instantly starts daydreaming about his life with her. However, he backs off, admitting he can't push his feelings on her without understanding how she feels. After buying fried chicken from the store, he steps out to see other participants of the qualifiers, including Chinatsu. Just then, Hina yoinks his chicken and wishes him best of luck before leaving him alone with Chinatsu, who also demands to have some of his chicken, admitting she is a bit jealous of how close he is with Hina. On match day, Chinatsu wakes up early and sees Taiki stretching in the front yard. Excited about his match, she decides to join him, and he mentions that he has something to tell her after the tournament, which makes her curious. She then asks him how people cheer in badminton, and after he tells her, she cheers him on, which makes his heart race. Later, as Taiki and Haryu hang out in the tournament hall, the team of Hayato and Tateyama is called in for a match, and Hayato is the guy Haryu can't beat. When Hayato notices Haryu in the crowd, he starts mocking him and tells him to learn a thing or two by watching his match. Soon after, Hayato starts moving, and everyone is shocked to see how good he really is. Hayato then notices that Taiki is watching the game closely, verbally noting all the things he can improve on simply by watching. Later, Taiki notices a player sleeping on the bench and wakes him up to inform him that he dropped his wallet. That player is Yusa from the Sagikawa Academy, the school with the most esteemed badminton players. Later, as Yusa watches Haryu and Taiki struggle against Hayato and Tateyama, he notices that Haryu is improving with each point. Suddenly, Taiki pulls out a crazy move and smashes over the opponent's net, but the shuttlecock lands just outside the line, and he loses the match. That night, as Chinatsu returns home, she learns from Yukiko that Taiki lost his first match. When she goes to talk to him, she finds him sleeping on the table with a notebook in front, noting all the things he did wrong in today's match. When he wakes up, he finds a small encouraging note from Chinatsu in his book, and it cheers him on. Later, before the singles game, Haruyu tells Taiki he'll have to face Hyodo in the semifinals, and it's okay if he loses. But Taiki confidently replies that he'll win. His first match is against Yusa, and sadly, he ends up losing the game. Later, Hina shows up to cheer him on and is devastated to learn that Taiki couldn't even go past the first round. She later meets him in the waiting area and jokingly says that she wasted all that time making lunch for him to celebrate his win, only for him to lose like an idiot. She then admits she got lazy and only bought snacks, and Taiki is relieved he won't get food poisoning from her cooking. Taiki then admits he is far from his goals and needs to work harder next time. Hina is relieved to hear this because it means he hasn't given up. During the finals, Haruyu goes up against Hyodo, and the Sagikawa management discusses how they have not one but 2 stars on their roster. After an intense match, Haruyu loses to Hyodo again, and after the match, he learns that Taiki went home as soon as it ended because he was depressed. Meanwhile, Taiki enters his home and overhears his family celebrating Chinatsu making it to the nationals, and hearing this makes him extremely happy. However, he cannot live with the fact that he lost and goes on a jog to take his frustration out. A few days later, Taiki starts freaking out because he has midterms in a week, but Kyo tells him to stop acting like a wussy. Later, they run into Hina, who doesn't even want to talk to anyone because she's worried about her English exam. Together, they head to the sports hall, and seeing Chinatsu give her all during practice makes Taiki want to practice as well. Hina is worried for him because he's pretending to be okay even when he's crushed, but Kyo assures her that Taiki will be fine because he's not the one to give up. Later, the coach congratulates Haruyu for making it to the nationals, but Haruyu credits his success to the other members of the badminton club for sparing with him. After that, the coach asks them to write down their goals and post them on the wall, and while Haryu's goal is to win the final, Taiki's goal is to get better at smashing both shuttlecocks and shotties. For the next few days, the whole squad continues to practice and study even harder than before until Taiki feels some early symptoms of a cold and decides to take a break. Before he leaves his room, he hears Chinatsu down in the hall talking about nationals, and this makes him depressed again. After the exams are over, the boys celebrate in the locker room, but Taiki decides to head home early. As he hits the bed, he realizes he has a fever, and now he can't even go for a jog to clear his head. He starts reminiscing about his failures and all the good times he's spent with Chinatsu, and tells himself out loud that he's a loser. Just then, Chinatsu tells him he's not and checks his fever, leaving the guy in shock. After a moment, he quickly backs off and tells Chinatsu not to come near him or she will get sick too. However, she sternly tells him to calm down before he gets even sicker. She then heads to the kitchen and makes him noodles, while he obediently waits under the blanket. Eating her homemade cooking makes him feel better immediately, but Chinatsu decides to stay until he sleeps. When he says he's not sleepy, she proposes they chat for a bit because they haven't talked for weeks. She then recalls he said he had something to say to her after the tournament, but Taiki stays silent because he doesn't have the confidence to confess to her. She then says she saw his goal sheet and wonders why he wrote what he wrote there, and Taiki explains it's because he needs to work on many other things before he even thinks about going to the nationals. Chinatsu admits that she also thinks that she might not be good enough yet, and giving up seems easy, but the drive to win the finals keeps her going. She advises him not to lose sight of his bigger goal and keep working hard. This advice makes him fall for her even more as he realizes she's relatable and empathizes with him. He agrees to add another goal on the sheet and then tries to get up, but when he fumbles due to weakness, Chinatsu tries to catch him, only to land directly on top of him. The next day, Taiki's fever is gone, but he still looks exhausted because he couldn't sleep thanks to his encounter with Chinatsu. At school, he learns that the gym is occupied by the volleyball team, so the others are cleaning the pool to pass the time. As he joins them, Haruyu tells him that smashing isn't his only weakness, and his footwork was terrible in his match against Yusa. He also asks Taiki if he's made any progress with Chinatsu, but Taiki says he is terrible with girls and can't understand what counts as progress. Haruyu admits it's hard to tell with Chinatsu because she is friendly with all the guys, so if she were really into him, she would keep her distance. After the pool is cleaned up, he heads to the storage room and runs into Chinatsu. At first, she acts very casual, but when he thanks her for helping him last night, she suddenly gets all shy and tries to leave the room. Taiki instinctively grabs her hand, but starts acting dumb and asks where to put the buckets. After telling him where they go, Chinatsu joins Nagisa outside, who starts chatting about boys. Chinatsu asks her why she doesn't find a boyfriend, and she says she's focused on the game just like her. Once they reach the gym, they see a member of the volleyball team crying because she has to transfer to a different school, and Nagisa is grateful for the people who are letting Chinatsu stay with them. That night, the family enjoys a backyard barbecue, and Chinatsu finally gets a chance to talk to Taiki's father. He admits he was too scared to take her responsibility at first, but Yukiko talked him into it as she's stronger-willed than he is. He also tells her he felt proud when she made it into the nations, and it'll make him really happy if she wins the whole thing. Just then, Taiki shows up asking for ice cream, but when they learn they've run out, the old man sends both of them to get them from the store. After shopping, Taiki gets nervous until he learns that Chinatsu is thinking about eating ice cream, so he pops open 2 packs and they eat on their way home. As they talk, Taiki notices a speeding car and pulls her towards him, and being close to him reminds her of the day he had a fever. She requests him to forget about that day, admitting that she has been very careless and will make sure it doesn't happen again. Taiki realizes she just drew a line, and it pains him because he thought they were making progress. A day before the summer break starts, Hina and Kyo notice that Taiki looks awfully glum. Hina assumes he's worried about the homework, so he invites him for a group study session on the weekend. Later, he notices that Taiki is avoiding Chinatsu, so he finally tells her that he was getting too close to her, so she drew a line, and now he's unsure of how to approach her. The next day, Taiki heads to the gym for practice, after which he joins Hina and friends for a joint study session. When Hina complains about not understanding maths, her classmate Ito shows her how to do it, and Taiki hears some guys gossiping that Ito has had a crush on Hina for a while. Afterward, Hina and Taiki see some girls talking about a festival, and it reminds them of the time they went there with a friend named Saijo. Taiki recalls the time Saijo announced the festival in class and told everyone to raise their hands if they want to go. Hina raised her hand in enthusiasm and ended up slapping Taiki across the face by accident. For the next few days, she got so busy with practice that she forgot about the festival, and by the time she got there, the fireworks had already started. She contemplated going home, but Taiki appeared out of nowhere and offered her a candy apple. Hina was surprised and asked how he knew she wanted it, and he replied that he saw her drooling like a dog with rabies. At present, Taiki realizes they haven't gone to the festival since, so Hina gets all red and tells him to go with her this year. At night, while Taiki is doing homework, Yukiko asks Chinatsu if she wants a yukata for the festival. Taiki starts imagining her in a yukata, and it makes all the blood leave his brain to his south pole. Yukiko also asks him if she has any plans for the festival, and he says he's going with friends. The next day, after practice, Haryu invites him to a spar with the university team, and Taiki agrees to go. Later, Hina sees him smiling and asks if he's thinking about busty goth babes, but he tells her he got invited to practice with the university team. The practice is on the same day as the festival, but he promises to be there in time. He then asks who else is going to be there, and Hina tells him to invite Kyo, though she was hoping they could go alone. Later, Taiki invites Kyo to the festival, but Kyo immediately realizes Hina wanted to go alone with Taiki. Meanwhile, Nina tells Hina to clear up the misunderstanding, but Hina refuses because she doesn't want to ruin her friendship with Taiki. Later, she asks Taiki if he would rather go with Chinatsu, and Taiki says she would just turn him down because she's trying to maintain distance. Seeing him struggle to keep his composure, Hina offers him some words of encouragement, while also making sure she doesn't accidentally confess her own feelings. On the weekend, Taiki and Haryu head to the university, where they practice with the big boys. Ryoto is also there, and he offers some valuable insight to Taiki on how to improve. Taiki immediately implements his advice in practice and notices an improvement in his smashes, which makes Ryoto proud. After practice, Kyo pretends to be sick so Taiki and Hina can go alone to the festival, which makes Taiki a little nervous. He goes there ahead of time and decides to buy a candy apple for Hina, and when she arrives wearing a yakuta, Taiki is shocked at how gorgeous she looks. Chinatsu is there with her friends and sees Hina and Taiki together, which makes her freeze on the spot. Meanwhile, Hina is so nervous around Taiki that she leaves to get some snacks. She admits to herself that she went all this way to look good because she wants Taiki to find him pretty, but at the same time, she's scared to have his attention. As they set out to watch the fireworks, Taiki realizes that Hina is awfully quiet for someone who can't keep her mouth shut for 2 seconds. When a mosquito bites her, Taiki offers to apply powder on her neck and notices that she did her hair very well. When he compliments her, she thinks he's making fun of her, but Taiki admits he thought she looked charming. Just then, the fireworks start, and Taiki looks at her again, realizing that she's really happy now that he's complimented her. During the intermission, Taiki decides to get a drink and sees Chinatsu comforting a girl who got separated from her parent. Taiki decides to help her find her mother, unaware that Hina is eagerly waiting for him to return and compliment her again. Meanwhile, Chinatsu runs into her close friend Karen and introduces her as Haryu's girlfriend. When Taiki introduces herself, Karen admits she's heard a lot about him, and while he assumes it's from Haryu, in reality, it's Chinatsu who's been talking about him to her friend. Later, as Chinatsu waits with the girl at the reception, Taiki brings the girl's mother, and she thanks them for taking care of their daughter. Before leaving, the girl gives Chinatsu a cute hairpin, which makes Taiki laugh. As they head to the viewing area, the fireworks start again, and Chinatsu says she has to return to her friends. Taiki realizes he's late and quickly rushes back, but instead of being upset, she calmly suggests they come next year as well. Meanwhile, Chinatsu returns to her friends, and they notice that she looks incredibly sad. The next day, Chinatsu seems off her game and makes bad plays, but her friend encourages her to keep a cool head. At the badminton court, Haryu is slaying as usual, and Taiki notices that he almost beat Hyoto at a university the other day. He then recalls Hyoto's advice and asks Kyo to practice with him so he can improve. After practice, Taiki starts sleeping in the hall, and Chinatsu approaches him, asking if he and Hina are now dating. She admits his answer will determine how she feels about him, and wishes he had told her he was going on a date instead of lying about it. She says she would not have wasted his time if she had known he was on a date, and knowing he had hidden it from her is what made her sad. After a while, Taiki wakes up from his nap and senses that someone was just here, but he decides to look over it. A few days later, Chinatsu leaves for her games at the Nationals, but Taiki runs after her to hand her her purse. He notices that she's still wearing her wish bracelet, so he makes another wish that she doesn't get injured and emerges victorious at the Nationals. He then pretends to send her positive energy, but Chinatsu settles for an actual high five. She then calls him a flirt before leaving, and Taiki later discusses this with Kyo, who tells him they're both idiots. He also tells him that Chinatsu knows about his little date with Hina, but since Taiki had told her he was going with friends, it makes it look like he lied to her. Though panicking at first, Taiki quickly snaps out of it and promises to make it up to her later. Later, before Haryu's match, Taiki runs into Karen, who immediately tells him that she knows he has hots for Chinatsu. She also knows they are living together and feels bad for the guy because it must be hard for him. Later, she visits Haryu to give him a pep talk before heading to the stands, where Taiki calls her amazing for managing work and her relationship together. She admits it isn't as smooth as it seems because they had been in love for many years, but never had the strength to say it. Then, one day, while Karen was feeling bummed after a bad day, Haryu visited her to check up on her. Overwhelmed with emotion, Karen embraced Haryu and finally gathered the strength to confess. Just then, Haryu's match begins, and while Karen is cheering him on, Taiki starts thinking about the complications between him and Chinatsu. After winning his first match, Haryu meets Hyoto in the next match. After an intense first game, Haryu loses 15-21, but he still has a chance because it's a best of 3. He looks over at the stands and sees that Karen looks worried, and it reminds him of the first time he saw her during swim class. Although she looked stunning, she had no talent for swimming, so Haryu coldly asked her why she even came here. She told him she came here to learn, and he will be the one teaching her from now on. By the time she graduated, she was one of the best in school, and even though they got into different schools afterward, they kept hanging out because they lived close. Haryu fell for her first, but he never dared to say it, so when she confessed, he thought she was cool because she did what he couldn't do. Using her as his motivation, Haryu locks in, and after an intense back and forth, he wins one game off Hyoto. In the decider, he gives everything he has to the point that he even shocks Hyoto, but in the end, he falls short by just 3 points. After the match, Karen asks Taiki if he'll confess to Chinatsu, but he says he can't because they are living together. However, Karen says it's creepy to live with a guy who secretly wants to smash you and urges him to go for it. Later, Karen meets Haryu outside, and he embraces her, promising to win more next year. She tells him she has to go, and he should watch the other matches. So Haryu returns to the court and asks Taiki to join him. That night, Chinatsu and his team prepare to face Minabazaki High, the former champion who defeated them last year. Later, Megisa tells Chinatsu that their most senior players will retire next year to prepare for the entrance exam, and this places more burden on her back. She curls up into a ball, admitting that while she was full of doubts before the first game, her teammates had her back, which is why she was able to score. She wants this team to last forever, but Nagisa tells her that's wishful thinking. The next day, the boys learn that Hyoto won the Nationals, so all eyes are now on the girls' basketball team to bring a medal. Later, as everyone leaves the court, Taiki stays back and starts playing basketball while wondering how Chinatsu is doing. He starts mumbling about all the things he loves about her, only to panic after snapping out of his daydreaming. Just then, Hina shows up in the court, and when he asks how her nationals went, she simply tells him to buy her an ice cream. After taking a bite of it, she goes into ecstasy because she has been on a strict diet for so long. She then casually drops that she got 3rd place, but she is not satisfied with the results and will place higher next time. Despite that, Taiki feels proud of her and congratulates her, so she asks him to spend some time with her. She takes him to a park where she plays on a swing, but Taiki asks her to be careful because he can see her fountain of youth. She feels flattered knowing he treats her like a girl rather than a friend, but then she notices him looking at the clock. Taiki tells her Chinatsu's in the final moments of her game by now, so Hina challenges him to a game of shoe toss to distract him. She says whoever loses the game will have to share a secret with the others, and then she purposely loses the game. At the exact time, Chinatsu is in the final moments of the game and must score in the last second, but she misses and her team loses the game. After the game ends, Chinatsu sees that her charm is broken and starts crying at the loss. Back in the park, Hina confesses to Taiki that she likes him, leaving him in shock. She says she is aware of his feelings for Chinatsu, but she wanted to tell him so he could consider her as well. Having said her piece, she returns to her cheerful persona and decides to head home, leaving Taiki with mixed emotions. On his way back, he recollects the entire fireworks festival and realizes she has liked him for a while, which makes him feel worse because he has been clueless. While struggling with his feelings, he returns home only to learn from his mom that Chinatsu lost her game. Suddenly, his mood shifts, and he locks himself in his room, not understanding why he feels guilty. The next day, he runs into Hina outside the sports hall, and she starts teasing him about her confession. Unbeknownst to them, Chinatsu overhears everything and has a shocking look on her face. A few days later, the girls celebrate Chinatsu's birthday, while Taiki watches from the badminton court, wondering what gift he should give her. Just then, Hina shows up, and he asks her if they can talk in private. They head outside, where he tells her he wants to give Chinatsu a shot, and Hina tells him to go for it. Even though she acts like it's fine, Kyum knows deep down it's not okay. Meanwhile, as Chinatsu gets back to practice, the coach makes her do hard drills, and Nagisa notes that since the senior players are gone, Chinatsu has to take their spot. Afterward, the coach asks her to be the vice captain, and Chinatsu agrees to do it, even though she's not a natural leader. Later, as she walks home, she gets a call from her mother wishing her happy birthday. She can immediately tell that something is off, so when she asks, Chinatsu tells her everything has been too much lately. She offers her words of encouragement and gives her a new perspective on the matter, which makes her feel better. She then sends Taiki a sticker to let him know she wants to talk, and Taiki spawns right behind him. They take a train together to the beach, and once there, Chinatsu cheerfully runs into the water. She asks Taiki to join, and he notices that his wish bracelet has broken. Then suddenly, she splashes water on his face, and the two start playing. When Chinatsu's foot gets stuck in the sand, Taiki grabs her hand to help her out, but then he steps on a clamp and ends up falling in the water. Later, as they watch the sunset, Chinatsu thanks him for bringing her here, so he uses his opportunity to pull out the birthday cake he's been carrying all day. He then sings her the whole birthday song, and they enjoy a sweet moment together. Soon after, it starts to rain heavily, so they rush to the train station only to learn that it's out of order. They decide to stay the night at a guest house with a single room, and while Taiki lies to her mom that he has other friends, he is internally panicking about spending a night with Chinatsu. She, on the other hand, is acting pretty casual and even brings out several cards and board games so they can spend the night. Before they play, she gets a video call from Nagisa, and Taiki hides under the table like an idiot. Nagisa wishes her happy birthday again and then tells her not to worry too much because the whole team has her back. She also notices that Chinatsu already looks much happier, and Chinatsu says it's because she's having a night out with her family. After the call ends, Taiki tells her about the whole firework festival thing, explaining that since others couldn't join, it looked like he lied about it. Hearing this, Chinatsu realizes it was harsh of her to suddenly draw a boundary between them and apologizes for it. The next day, Chinatsu wakes up on the futon and sees that Taiki ended up sleeping on the chair. She watches him sleep like a goofball, and it makes her laugh. As the noon term starts, Taiki admits that he and Chinatsu have gotten a little closer. Later in class, he learns that Hina will be the main lead in the Snow White play during the school festival. Since he's the class rep, he gets busy with the planning, so Q uses this free time to ask Hina how she's feeling. Even though she puts up a strong front, Q knows that deep down she's hurting. Meanwhile, Taiki heads to the seniors class to hand in the program and sees Chinatsu sitting alone. She invites him in for a chat, and they start imagining what it would have been like if they were classmates. That evening, Taiki returns home and is surprised to find Chinatsu's mother in the living room. Turns out, Chinatsu's grandpa got sick, so she hopped on a plane to see him. She's decided to rent an apartment for a month, which means Chinatsu will be moving out for that period of time. Taiki helps them move some essentials into their new home, and Chinatsu returns his keys before telling him she'll see him at the gym tomorrow. The next day, he heads to the gym early to find it empty, and Haryu joins him soon after, forcing him to go on an early run. Later in class, Taiki is exhausted and depressed because he couldn't see Chinatsu. He starts wondering if she fell sick, but when he sees her during the class rep meeting, he finally feels relieved. Later, he practices with Harry at the gym, but by the time he's done, the basketball team has already left. As he walks home, he feels sad about the fact that he couldn't talk to Chinatsu even once, and she won't even be at home because she's moved out. However, when he steps inside, he finds Chinatsu getting ready to leave, and she says she came here to pick up some of her stuff. She then asks why he didn't come to the gym, and Taiki says he did, but then had to leave with Haryu. She admits she got on the wrong train but ran to the school to see him. However, by the time she arrived, he had already left. The next day, he runs into Chinatsu at the stationery store and learns that her class is hosting a maid calf during the festival. He starts imagining her in that outfit, but she says she won't be serving since she is the class rep. Just then, Hina and the others swarm Taiki, and Chinatsu decides to slip away. That night, she realizes she is being a third wheel because Hina likes Taiki, but she's split because they aren't dating yet. The next day, while Hina is practicing her lines as Snow White, Hugh adds that he doesn't understand the story and asks why Prince Florian want to marry someone after the first meetup. Hina asks if he has ever fallen for someone, and Q admits that the person he likes is currently dating someone else. Since Hina is in a similar situation, he feels pity for her. Later, Hina heads to the copying room, where she runs into Chinatsu, and after some small talk, Hina tells her that she confessed to Taiki. Hina says she wanted to let her know because she and Taiki live together, but Chinatsu tells her about her whole grandfather situation. Feeling embarrassed, Hina prays that her grandfather recovers soon before bolting out of the room, leaving Chinatsu to reflect on her choices. During practice, Taiki gets praise from his seniors, and even though he knows he's gotten better, he doesn't feel good about it. Just then, the coach announces that they'll be facing Sagikawa High this week, which immediately reminds Taiki of his loss against Yusa. Haryu notices that he looks nervous, so he encourages him by saying he has nothing to lose. Later, Hina joins him for a jog while memorizing her script and promises to be there for his match against Yusa, but he says it's just practice. Hina reminds him that Yusa is the guy he lost to, so she'll be there to see the guy he likes give his all, which makes both of them blush. The next day, Chinatsu finds Taiki in the middle of an intense practice session, so she says she'll be there to watch his rematch with Yusa. He tells her it's just practice, but she insists on coming, which reminds him of what Hina said yesterday. The next day, after beating his classmate, Tanagawa, he learns that Yusa beat a professional, so he challenges Tanagawa to another match. Afterward, he heads to the room where Hina is rehashing, and when she says she's hit a brick wall, he offers to help. She says she's struggling with the scene in which Snow White falls into a slumber, and Taiki praises her for putting so much effort into a scene others would look over. She then lies on the table and asks Taiki to read the script, and when he reads the part where the prince kisses Snow White, she gets all shy because she starts imagining him kissing her. She then calmly asks if he wants to kiss her for real, which makes Taiki's heart race. However, he turns her down, but Hina takes pleasure from the fact that she made his heart skip a beat. She then leaves the room, and Taiki gently slams his wrist on the table in frustration. The next day, he spars with Haryu and loses by a lot of points, which makes him feel worse. Haryu says he will never beat him with zero confidence, so he looks at Hina and Chinatsu and realizes he's a coward. That night, Chinatsu and Haryu hang out on the balcony, both appreciating each other for their hard work. Their conversation shifts to Taiki, and Haryu says the man is in deep waters because he thinks he's not good enough to beat Yusa. Before he leaves, Chinatsu tells him to offer a helping hand to Taiki, so he heads to the vending machine to buy water for him. However, when he sees that Taiki's been chugging curry with the boys, he jokingly says that he'll just practice with Kyo, prompting Taiki to run after him. The following day, as he heads to the locker room, Yusa shows up at the door for some practice. After obliterating the mediocre players of the school, he decides to take a small break before he faces Haryu. However, he is told that his next opponent is Taiki, who is already hyping himself up at the court. Meanwhile, Hina is hiding because she doesn't want to see Taiki in the same depressed state as before. But when Nina tells her that Taiki is actually playing well, she sneaks up and sees him score a point. On the other side, Chinatsu is watching alongside Nagisa, who asks her if she was hanging out with Taiki on her birthday. Chinatsu finally tells her that she is staying with Taiki's family because their parents are friends, but Nagisa grows anxious because she's worried Taiki will swipe her V card. After Chinatsu assures her that she's fine, they turn their attention towards the match and see Taiki get wiped by Yusa. Though exhausted, Taiki starts thinking about his prior loss and Hina's confession, which made her happy. As he keeps playing, his mind drifts off to the time he learned Chinatsu didn't win the nationals and how he took her to the beach to cheer her up. Just then, his foot slips and he loses the first set. During the second set, he locks in, and Hina is surprised because he has never seen this look on Taiki's face. Even that is not enough, and Yusa keeps scoring points against him. Chinatsu watches him stand all alone in the court and reminisces about how Taiki would always come to the gym early to practice. She was so moved by his consistency that she changed her own timings to make sure she was the first one there. Back on court, Taiki loses another point. But before they start again, Yusa admits that he's getting faster and faster after each point. In the next rally, Taiki gets a perfect opportunity to smash, and unlike last time, he manages to score a point. They both win one game each, with the third one being very close, and all eyes are on who will emerge victorious. As they go through an intense back and forth, there is a smile on Yusa's otherwise stoic face because he has finally found his match. In the end, Taiki lands another perfect smash and wins the set 19-21, shocking everyone, including Haryu. As they shake hands, Yusa challenges him to a rematch, but Haryu quickly stops Taiki before he breaks his ankles. Later, as Taiki takes in his victory with a smile, Chinatsu shows up to congratulate him. Taiki dedicates this win to her, admitting that watching her play daily gave him the motivation to work hard. As they talk about the play, Chinatsu asks how they'll handle the kiss scene, and Taiki panics, remembering what happened with Hina. Later, as Taiki is saying goodbye to Yusa, Haryu is inside the court, enraged because he lost to him. That night, Taiki dreams about beating Yusa at the Nationals, after which Chinatsu shows up to celebrate with a kiss. Hina arrives as well and pulls him for another kiss, which forces him out of his sleep. One day before the festival, Taiki sees a boy urging his friend to ask Chinatsu out, but he says he's fine watching from a distance. When he enters his classroom, he is stunned to see Hina looking drop-dead gorgeous in a snow-white costume. Before he can even say anything, Hina drags Nina to the side and asks her to curl her hair, when in reality, she was too shy to face Taiki. The next day, Taiki wakes up early to go for a morning run and sees Chinatsu practicing in a local park. She had the same idea of practicing outside since the gym was closed. She then invites him to see the musical performance at the festival, and Taiki agrees to go, even though he's panicking inside. Later, he heads to school and runs into Kishi, who is still in shock about Taiki beating Yusa. Kishi demands that he give her Chinatsu's number, which starts an argument until Haryu and Karen arrive to put a stop to it. The couple takes them to the maid cave, where both Taiki and Kishi are stunned to see how gorgeous Chinatsu looks. As they take a seat, one of the customers starts flirting with Chinatsu, but Nagisa quickly steps in to gatekeeper. Soon after, Chinatsu comes to their table, and when Karen asks if she is free after this, Chinatsu says she already made plans, which makes Taiki run out of there in excitement. Later, he waits outside on the agreed-upon time, but when Chinatsu doesn't show up, he heads inside, hoping she'd be there. Soon after, someone grabs his hand, and he looks back to see an all-out-of-breath Chinatsu apologizing for being late. After settling down, they turn their attention to the performance, and seeing Chinatsu happy makes him think he might actually have a shot at getting laid. Taiki's mind drifts to the time when they went to the beach, so he takes his chances and asks why she invited him here. She whispers something in his ear, but the music is too loud and he doesn't hear her, which bugs him for the whole show. He asks her again after the show, but Chinatsu avoids the question and says she'll see him later at the play. Afterward, Taiki is extremely happy that he got to spend time with her. Just then, he sees Nishida at a fortune teller's stand and decides to try his luck. Nishida tells him he'll undergo a big trial today, and just then, all of Nishida's previous customers come running in, thanking him as all his predictions were true. He heads to the classroom where he learns that the guy playing Prince Florian is in the hospital. The whole crew starts panicking because they need a substitute for the prince, until all eyes divert to Taiki. Now, he's forced into the role of the prince, and even though he doesn't want to participate, he's seen the work everyone has put together. He also remembers that in the last few weeks, Hina was memorizing the script all the time, so he agrees to do it for her sake. However, it hits him later that he's never performed on stage before, and this is the big trial Nishida mentioned. He starts reading through the script, but because Chinatsu promised to be there in the audience, it would make him seem like a liar again. To avoid that, he pulls out his phone to let her know. Later, Chinatsu joins Haryu, Karen, and Nishida at the theater and breaks the news that Taiki is playing Prince Florian. Backstage, Taiki is hyping up his crew, but deep inside, he's panicking because he keeps thinking about the time Hina asked for a kiss. Hina arrives and starts goofing around, so he asks her why she's not nervous. She admits that she's shaking because she didn't expect him to be the prince, but she asked to be the main lead, so she wants him to do his best as one of her closest friends. As they ease up around each other, Hugh enters the room and sees some guys betting that Taiki and Hina are already dating. Soon after, the play begins and Hina takes the stage, mesmerizing everyone with her charisma. When Taiki arrives, it becomes very obvious that he's got no career in acting, but he does his best. Karen asks why the prince is showing up so early on, and Haryu says they changed the story because Hugh didn't like the love at first sight angle. After saying his lines, Taiki heads backstage and memorizes the next part, but he's clearly nervous about the kiss scene. Later, he heads on stage and uses his cape to cover the fake kiss. When Hina wakes up, he takes a sigh of relief that it went well. Just then, the rope holding the confetti ball breaks, and Taiki throws himself over Hina to protect her. The two lovebirds end up kissing for real, and the curtains are rolled back before things get too chaotic. Everyone in the audience starts gossiping about the kiss, and Shinatsu watches with shock on her face. Later, Taiki tells the boys that their lips didn't touch, but they keep teasing him about it. When Taiki gets upset, Hina apologizes for the rumors of them dating, but he thinks it's his own fault for messing up. She argues that he did way better than expected and even offers to clear up the misunderstanding with Shinatsu. Later, as he vents to Kyo about the gossip, Kyo asks him if he started developing feelings for Hina, which shocks Taiki. He says he only likes Shinatsu, but Kyo believes a part of him also likes Hina, which makes his brain short-circuit. The next day, while Taiki makes coffee for himself, he wonders if it's okay to like two girls at once. Just then, Shinatsu shows up out of nowhere, telling him that his grandfather is now okay, so she will move back in tomorrow. At school, he learns from Nishida that Shinatsu was at the play and watched everything, and since the rumors are false, he asks Taiki to look after Hina. Megisa asks Shinatsu if she is okay about the gossip, but Shinatsu ignores her and keeps her focus on practicing. That night, she stays at Karen's plays, and they both reminisce about the time they used to have sleepovers every week. Karen then talks about Haryu, noting that she hasn't been able to see him lately because he's so busy with practice. She also asks Shinatsu if she's interested in dating because a guy asked for her number, but she immediately says no. Karen asks if she likes someone else, and Shinatsu gets all shy, admitting that she does. She finally admits that she's grown to like Taiki.
Oh my god! Wow!
And even though he was just a random dude at the gym at first, they got closer when she got to know him better. However, she hasn't had the chance to understand her own feelings because her life has been super busy. Karen knows Shinatsu is the type to completely understand her feelings before dating someone, which is completely okay, but in this case, she reminds him that someone else might snatch Taiki away if she waits for too long. She advises her not to rush this, but also asks her not to wait too long once she has made up her mind. Karen mentions how her sister changes boyfriends faster than she changes underwear, so she could learn a thing or two from Shinatsu. Just then, Karen's younger sister Ayami walks into the room and immediately starts fangirling over her. The next day, Shinatsu moves back with Taiki, and when she looks at him, all cute, it confuses him. The next day, Taiki and Hina notice some guys gossiping about them, and Hina asks Taiki if he wouldn't have to hear these rumors if he were to date her for real. Later, the coach gathers the team to introduce them to their new member, Ayame, who will be their manager starting today. The boys start cheering because that's the closest they've been to a woman, but Ayame starts looking for a cute guy with a bowl haircut, as he's the only reason she joined this team. The boys realize she's talking about Yusa and tell her he's in a different school, which crushes her hopes and dreams of getting piped. Later, Taiki takes her around to show her the club rooms, but when she sees a spider in the locker room, she jumps on Taiki. Just then, Shinatsu passes by and gets a little jealous, so she grabs the spider with a tissue and throws it out of the window. Later, Ayame runs into Hina in the bathroom, and when Hina sees that she's packing bazookas, she starts to tear up because she's as flat as Sakura. Later, Ayame joins Taiki, who teaches her how to keep scores, but when she gets too close, he asks her to scoot over. Just then, she spots a spider and jumps on at Taiki again. Shinatsu happens to pass by and immediately goes in the opposite direction upon seeing them, leaving Taiki frustrated. That night, Ayame tells Karen that many guys eye Shinatsu when she's playing, which makes her wonder why she's not dating anyone. She then wonders if Shinatsu already likes someone and starts pestering Karen to give her a name. Karen knows Ayame will meddle if she finds out about this guy, so she tells him Shinatsu likes a tall guy who lives overseas. The next day, the coach introduces a new player named Kazuma, who went overseas to study, and the guy happens to match the description Karen gave her last night. Later, while taking out the trash, Ayame runs into Hina and randomly asks her if she has feelings for Taiki. Caught off guard, Hina admits that she does in fact like that idiot and even confessed to him. However, since she told him he doesn't have to answer right away, they're not officially dating. Ayame gets furious thinking Taiki is pushing around a golden retriever, but Hina assures him that he's a good guy and she likes the way things are right now. Realizing that Hina is a pure and sweet soul, Ayame takes it upon herself to help her get piped. That night, while Taiki is heading home, Shinatsu pops out of nowhere and starts calling him by his second name, like Hina. Frustrated, he asks how she would feel if he were to call her by her nickname, but she says he wouldn't mind, leaving him confused. She also brings a cactus home and looks on the internet on how to keep it healthy. The next day, Ayame learns that the school is hosting a joint training camp for everyone, and she gets excited because not only would it give Kazuma and Shinatsu a chance to get closer, but it would also help her plans of hooking Hina up with Taiki. Meanwhile, Taiki is smashing at the court like a pro, and even though he admits he's gotten much better, it still feels incomplete because Haryu hasn't sparred with him ever since losing to Yusa. Later, as Taiki is helping Ayame with manager duties, he notices that she knows everyone in school. Ayame reveals reveals it's because she's dated a billion guys, and she often goes on with every guy who says they likes her. She admits that she doesn't like most of the guys she dated, but she did it because she thought things would change if she actually started dating them. She urges Taiki to do the same, and this gets him thinking about Hina just like he wanted him to. A few days later, the training camp starts, and everyone in the tennis club starts practicing really hard. Meanwhile, they notice the basketball team having light jogs, while the gymnastics team gets to ride around in a bus. After a short break, Taiki gets back to practicing and obliterates everyone on the team. He then asks Harry if he'd spar with him next, but Harry refuses again. That night, Nishida invites all of his friends to a card game, which involves doing different kinds of challenges and dares. After one round of butchering Chinatsu's hairstyle, everyone has a good laugh about it, but Ayame cooks up a strategy to make Taiki and Hina do a dare together. She manipulates cards in a way that Taiki gets a dare card, and it dares him to confess to his crush. Everyone waits for Taiki to complete the dare, but Kyo pulls him out by saying Taiki is in love with Yusa because he kept mumbling his name in his sleep. Just then, the teacher tells him to wrap the game up as it's getting late, and although he's saved, he stays up all night thinking about whether he should choose Hina or Chinatsu, admitting that both make his heart skip a beat. The next day, he wakes up before anyone else and shows unusually high spirits. Just then, he learns that Hina left her bag behind, so she runs after her bus to hand it to her. On his way back, he sees the basketball club going on a jog and Chinatsu laughing around with Kazuma. After an intense practice, he heads to the cafe with the boys, and they notice how Chinatsu is having a good laugh with the new guy Kazuma. Afterwards, he passes Chinatsu in the hallway, and she immediately notices that he's bruised his elbow. She puts a bandage on his arm and even signs it before joining Nagaisi and Kazuma, which makes Taiki feel a little jealous. That night, he learns that Chinatsu went on a jog all by herself, and Kazuma causally steps in, telling Taiki that Chinatsu is a hard worker, which upsets him because this random dude has suddenly started acting like her boyfriend. Frustrated, Taiki decides to go on a jog as well without telling anyone, so Hina starts looking for him all over the hotel. Meanwhile, Taiki starts thinking about his feelings for Chinatsu and admits that he's also having similar feelings for Hina. Just then, he comes across a sign saying there are bears in the forest, and thinking that Chinatsu might be in trouble, he rushes inside to find her. On the way, he admits that he and Chinatsu have gotten closer, but he still doesn't know what's going on in her head. Just then, he sees Chinatsu carrying an old woman on her back, and the granny explains that she broke her ankle on her way home. Taiki joins her in dropping the old woman off at her home, and she gives them snacks as a thank you. She assumes that Taiki and Chinatsu must be dating, given how he came looking for her in pitch black, but Taiki gets all flustered and says it was just a coincidence. Since it's getting late, the old woman's husband drops them off in his truck, and on the way, Taiki realizes Chinatsu looks even prettier in her side profile. Later, as Taiki returns to the hotel, he immediately drops onto the mattress, and Kyo can immediately tell something happened between him and Chinatsu. The next day, while Taiki is practicing, Hina drops by to see him before heading out with Nina. Nina really wants Hina to get together with Taiki, so she asks him to confess her feelings at the campfire. However, Hina refuses to do it, saying that she doesn't need an answer from Taiki until he actually falls in love with her. Later, she sees Taiki and Kyo helping around the vampire, and although she gets happy at first, when she sees Taiki eyeing Chinatsu, the smile disappears from her face. She knew Taiki liked Chinatsu from the start and confessed to him anyway. She also admits that her heart explodes when he looks at her. She also recalls the time she asked him to kiss her, which made her heart beat really fast. And when the confetti ball fell on her, he jumped in to save her. And even though they did not kiss, the people started making rumors. But in truth, Hina did not mind the rumors. She was hoping it would lead to them dating and start imagining what it would be like, only to get extremely flustered. Soon after, she joins Taiki at the grill, and he notices there is a leaf stuck in her hair. She can't get it out, so when Taiki extends his hand to help her, she starts blushing. She knows if she keeps telling him she likes him, she might push him away, so she will wait as long as she has to until he falls for her. She then starts goofing around with him, and Ayame sees them from a distance, calling them cute. She says the person getting adored in the relationship is always the happiest, so Kyo casually asks what about the other person. He also reminds her that her relationships never last long, which makes her brain fry. At night, as the campfire is lit, she looks at Kyo and starts making faces before heading out to clear her head. Soon after, she sees Taiki heading to the gym to get his jacket, so she sends Hina there for a chore in hopes that they'll hit it off. As expected, they both run into each other at the gym, and she finally realizes Ayame set her up. She takes the opportunity and takes Taiki upstairs, where they get a good view of the campfire. When Hina suggests they stay here for a while, Taiki suggests they sit elsewhere because he is tired. The two start talking about their previous trips, and as they ease up, Hina tries to touch Taiki's hand but stops when she thinks of Chinatsu. She then changes her tone and admits to him that being a second option hurts her a lot, but it's fine because she loves him and will wait for him. They both suddenly go silent, so Hina decides it's high time she leaves because she has already said too much. However, Taiki suddenly stops her, telling her he's sorry because he cannot go out with her. Holding back her tears, Hina tells him he doesn't have to give her an answer yet, but he admits that their relationship is not working. On top of that, having her as an option is stopping him from confessing to Chinatsu, and his indecisiveness is ultimately hurting her as well. He says they should stop this right now, but Hina quickly runs towards him and covers his mouth, hoping that he will stop. She doesn't understand why he doesn't like her, even though they've been best friends for years. But he slowly moves her hand and declares that he likes Chinatsu, and that won't change. As Hina's eyes fill up with tears, she runs outside and passes by Ayame, who decides to go after her. She sees Hina crying and asks if she's okay, so Hina finally tells her that Taiki likes someone else. As she breaks down right there, Taiki stays inside the building, depressed about breaking her heart. Meanwhile, Chinatsu is at the campfire, looking around for Taiki, but he is nowhere to be found. Ayame tries to comfort Hina, but she knows this is all her doing, and since she's never been in love, she doesn't even understand what it is like to have her heart broken. She then lines up packets of tissues in front of Hina to cheer her on, and tells her to use all of them if she needs. Hina keeps crying, and Ayame admits Taiki must be an idiot to let go of someone who likes him so much. She also admits that no guy has ever liked her as much as Hina likes Taiki, which reinforces her idea that she's never experienced true love. On the last day of the camp, Taiki sees Hina laughing with her friends and tries to avoid her. He then heads to the gym alone to clear his head and copes by telling himself that it would have hurt Hina more if he had led her on. Soon after, Haryu joins him and finally accepts his challenge for a match. Meanwhile, Q sees Ayame sitting alone in despair, mumbling about meddling with other people's business and speedrunning their heartbreak. When he asks, she angrily tells him to stay out of it. But Kyo calmly asks if this is about Taiki and Hina. He says he knows about Hina's feelings, and since they're both acting weird, it must mean Taiki finally rejected her. Ayame fails to understand why Taiki would not date Hina, given how she's crazy in love with him and they're already best friends. Q explains that their friendship is the exact reason why Taiki doesn't want to date Hina, and no one can convince him otherwise because it is ultimately his own choice. As they are talking, Taiki and Haryu are playing in the gym, and Haryu is still way ahead of Taiki. After Haryu wins, Taiki challenges him to a rematch, but Haryu says he's done for the day. He then admits he was a little nervous to play against him because after losing to Hyodo and Yusa, he didn't want to lose to him as well. However, he soon realized that not facing him was a cowardly move, so he decided to go for it. That evening, when he returns home, he runs into Chinatsu at the main gate and asks her if they can go out the next weekend. When she asks where, he blanks out and blurts that he wants to buy a tracksuit, so she agrees on the condition that they go to a cave on their way back, then heads inside and starts rolling on his bed in excitement because this is his chance to confess to her. However, the thought of rejecting Hina still lingers in his mind. Meanwhile, as Hina is walking home, Ayame drags her to an arcade where they play several games, which ultimately distracts her mind from the rejection. Just then, one of Ayame's exes shows up with his friend, and he starts talking smack about her for no reason. He even tells Ayame to stop being a hoe and finally settle down, but Hina steps up to the guy, telling him off with bold words. However, she eventually tears up talking about rejection, so Ayame grabs her hand and quickly bolts out of there. On the weekend, she sees Taiki at the gym, but immediately goes in the other direction. Just then, Ayame bumps into him and angrily tells him to help her with the boxes, making him wonder if he did anything to upset her. Ayame finally admits she's a little upset because he broke Hina's heart, and Taiki says he cannot talk to her with how things are right now. Realizing he does care for Hina, she asks if the person he likes is really worth hurting a friend over, which makes him consider his choices. Meanwhile, Ayame joins Kyo and says she can't stop herself from meddling because she can't see Hina in pain. So Q says having her is a good thing because Hina could really use a bold friend like her right now. On the other side, Hina is wearing a bunny head to hide her tears and decides to skip practice because being close to Taiki suffocates her now. After practice, Taiki quickly dresses up and leaves, and Kyo tells Harry that Taiki is finally going out with Chinatsu. Taiki rushes to the station to see Chinatsu looking at the cloud and joins her, ready to shoot his shot and confess his feelings. Will Taiki end up with Chinatsu, or did he fumble by rejecting Hina? Let us know in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more amazing recaps.